Okay, class, stop what you're doing. I know you're a little shocked. You weren't expecting to hear that theme music, right? You weren't expecting to hear that intro music because you think it's the holiday. You think you can just run around, do what you want to do, be lazy, just sit back, put your feet up, watch television, eat food, hang out with friends, go shopping. I know, but no, you need to stop what you are doing. I know. Just come on. I'll give you a second. I know. Take a deep breath, I sigh, roll your eyes. Yes, it is time for a Bible pop quiz. So that means you need to grab your notebook. You need to grab your pencil. You need to grab your Bible because it is a Bible pop quiz for this Wednesday, December the 27th, 2023. And I hope you are ready. Now, this will probably be, and I stress probably, I stress that, right? I cannot make any guarantee, but this will probably be the last Bible pop quiz for 2023. Probably. This is called the Bible Pop Quiz Podcast, right? The Bible Pop Quiz, meaning it's a pop quiz. You're not supposed to have it scheduled. You're not supposed to know when it's going to happen. You're supposed to be ready at any time, right? You're supposed to be ready. I don't have to tell you to get ready. You're supposed to stay ready, to use that cliche, right? So Bible pop quiz, I'm sorry to interrupt your holidays. I'm sorry, but this is probably, I stress, probably the last one of 2023. So hopefully you have benefited from all the Bible pop quizzes so far. Now this one, because it's going to be possibly, probably, maybe the last one of 2023, this one is a little bit more open-ended. This one is far more questions than normal. There's no fill in the blanks. This is not one of those more simple ones. This one will require a little bit of work and a little bit of effort, but I want to make sure you have something to do between now and the end of 2023, right? I want to make sure you're like, well, that Bible pop quiz, it really didn't give me much. Well, hopefully this will change that a little bit and make you have somewhat of a positive attitude towards it and look forward to more Bible pop quizzes in 2024. So are you ready? Today's Bible pop quiz, the whole thing focuses in on 2 verses found in the book of Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 through 2. Now, it is often said that life is like a race, right? Life is like a race. Sometimes it's described as a walk or a race, but we want to live our life, in a sense, running this race in order to try to win the prize. We want to reach the finish line, right? We want to do this, and we want to run it in a way that's somewhat obviously a good way. We want to run the race in somewhat of a good way, correct? So we're going to talk about running the race. We're going to talk about some things mentioned about that in Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 through 2. And hopefully this will challenge us maybe to think a little differently, because you can kind of consider this. This year is fast approaching its end. You can refer to it as a stage of the race, because your whole life is a race, right? The whole life is a race. So you can kind of consider it, you're about to finish another stage. 2023, you're going to finish stage 2023, and then you're going to be ready to take off on stage 2024 on January the 1st. But we want to finish this stage strong, and we want to prepare ourselves for the next stage. So we're going to consider Hebrews chapter 12 for the Bible pop quiz in that way. Are you ready? So here's what you need to do. Question number 1, Bible pop quiz. Notebook, pencil, Bible pop quiz for Wednesday, December the 27th, 2023 begins with question number 1, which is this: identify who the great cloud of witnesses are in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1. Identify who the great cloud of witnesses are. Now, there are 2 basic theories, but you can, and hey, for this Bible pop quiz, you can use anything. Study Bibles, commentaries. You can use anything that you have available to you, right? You can do whatever you need to find it. But if you realize that there are more than one possible interpretations of the great cloud of witnesses, Well, then write down the multiple interpretations, and then you can decide which one you think is the best, and you can possibly offer a justification. Now, the key here is to write it out on paper. That's why I tell you to grab a notebook and a pencil, right? It's that writing. It gets your mind to work and to think and to process. And the more you write, the more you see, right? It's been said by many that the pencil is the best eye that you can own, the best eye you can possess. Because as you write, you see. And if you don't write, you don't see. So if you want to see, write. That's kind of the concept. All right, here we go. So identify who the great cloud of witnesses are in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1. At least two major interpretations of it. All right, there's at least two. Number two, how should they, the great cloud of witnesses, impact us according to Hebrews 12:1? In Hebrews 12:1, it mentions this great cloud of witnesses. You need to identify, the first question is you got to identify who they are. The second question is, how should they impact us according to Hebrews 12:1? Because, in fact, it says, in at least in the King James, Hebrews 12:1, therefore, seeing we have this, we are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us. This great cloud of witnesses is to impact us. They should motivate us to do something. So I want you to first identify them, and then I want you clearly to identify how they should impact you. How should they impact you? You got to identify who they are, and then you ask yourself, how should they impact you? Now, of course, immediately you've got something to meditate on. Are they actually impacting you that way? And if they're not, why not? And then number three, I think this is important. So number one, identify the great cloud of witnesses. Number two, how should they impact you according to Hebrews 12:1, according to the text, not according to your personal opinion, not according to your theory or your presuppositions, but according to the text. Number three, why should they impact us in this way? Why? What is it? What is it about them that should impact you? Why? I want you to identify the why they should impact you. You need to identify who they are. You need to identify how they should impact you. And then I really want you to contemplate the why question. Why should they impact me this way? I mean, what is it? Why should they be impacting me? Because I think you're going to, as you see, they may not be impacting you enough. And if they are key into motivating you and helping you run the race, then we need to figure out the who, the how, the why, and we need to figure out all of that. This comes to number 4. What is the difference between a weight and a sin? And this is mentioned in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1. What is the difference between weight and sin? Weight and sin. Is there a difference? Well, the main thing is, I'm going to put what is the difference, but I really want you to consider, is this like just saying the same thing? Like, are they saying the exact same thing? Or is it just a different way of saying it, or are there real differences? So what is the difference between a weight and a sin in Hebrews 12:1? What is the difference? Now, how do you find that? Well, you can look and see, does the Bible use the word weight anywhere else? The Bible obviously uses the word sin in countless places. Is this the only place? You can look up the Greek. What's the Greek for weight? What is the Greek for sin? Similar meanings, different meanings? Is the sin the weight? I just want you to really just struggle with the difference here, right? You may have been taught a difference, but I really want you to think about and see if you can articulate it and prove it using cross-referencing or definition of words. All right, so number 1, identify who the great cloud of witnesses are in Hebrews 12:1. Number 2, how should they impact us according to Hebrews 12:1? Number 3, why should they impact us in this way? Number 4, what is the difference between weight and sin in Hebrews 12:1? And number 5, if there is a difference between a weight and a sin, I want you to identify one weight in your life and identify the sin in your life that you need to deal with. Now, this is a personal thing. I want you to look at your life and go, that's a spiritual weight. And that's the sin. Now, I'm saying if there's a difference, I want you to consider maybe there's no difference. If there's no difference, then just to identify the one thing, right? If sin and weight is the same, then what you need to do is then if there is no difference, then just identify the one thing in your life. Either identify the two things in your life or identify the one thing in your life, depending on if there is a difference or not. So if there is a difference, identify the weight and the sin in your life. And if there is no difference, just identify the one thing, the sin or the weight, if they're saying the same thing. And I want you to identify it. I want you to be brutally honest. Don't look around. If you need to go to a private place, you can go find a closet somewhere and put a sign on the door. Keep out. Serious Bible study is underway. Serious self-reflection is under the way. I don't want anyone to see, right? Because it may be your own private thing. And then you just ask yourself, okay, are there two things, weight and sin, or is it the same thing? What is it? What is it? And how? I mean, just the main thing is just to identify it. It's just to identify it. I think that's important. So number one, identify who the great cloud of witnesses are in Hebrews 12:1. Number two, how should they impact us according to Hebrews 12:1? Number three, why should they impact us in this way? Number four, what is the difference between weight and sin in Hebrews 12:1? Number five, if there is a difference, identify one weight and the sin in your life you need to deal with. And if there's no difference, identify the one sin, weight, and then that you need to deal with in your life. All right. Number six, in Hebrews 12:2, we are told to look to Jesus. Now you need to put your thinking caps on here, okay? This was important. Does Hebrews 12:2 introduce a new concept, or is this offering help to the laying aside the weight and sin of verse 1? When you get to Hebrews 12:2 and it reads, looking unto Jesus, is that introducing just a new concept? Hey, verse 1 is about the cloud of witnesses, the weight, the sin, and what you are to do. And then Hebrews 12:2 comes along and then says, now look unto Jesus. Is it something separate, or is the looking unto Jesus connected to verse 1 and the laying aside of the weight and the sin? So let me state that again. In Hebrews 12:2, we are told to look to Jesus. Does this introduce a new concept, or is this offering help to laying aside the weight and sin of verse 1? And I want you to just think about that. Is it the same? Is it a new concept, or is it referencing back to the previous verse? And if it is, then then looking to Jesus, how does that impact you? I could ask more questions there, but I just want you to consider everything involved with that. When you come to Hebrews 12:2, looking unto Jesus, it's just like almost a separate point. Okay, I need to look to this cloud of witnesses, because they motivate me then to get rid of this sin and weight. All right, now, after I've done that, now I need to look into Jesus. Or, hey, as I'm trying to lay aside this weight and I'm trying to deal with this weight and sin, I need to look unto Jesus, because that will also contribute, that will also help me in the laying aside. In other words, the great cloud of witnesses help and the looking unto Jesus help. Is that offering two separate helps, or is it just a completely separate concept? All right. So number one, identify who the great cloud of witnesses are in Hebrews 12:1. Number two, how should they impact us according to Hebrews 12:1? Number three, why should they impact us in this way? Number four, what is the difference between weight and sin in Hebrews 12:1? If there is a difference, identify the weight and the sin in your life. And if there is no difference, just identify the sin and that you need to deal with. Be brutally honest. I mean, like painfully honest. Number six, in Hebrews 12:2, we are told to look to Jesus. Does this introduce a new concept, or is this offering help to laying aside the weight and sin of verse 1? And then your final task, your assignment for this Bible Pop quiz. It's very simple. I need you to download the Sermons 2.0 app for either an Android device or an Apple device. The Sermons 2.0 app. once you download that app, I want you to look for sermons on Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 through 2. Do a search for Hebrews 12, 1 through 2. You're going to get a list of sermons. Just randomly pick one. Just randomly pick one. Don't try to sit there and figure out which kind of church. Just pick one. Just kind of, as randomly as you can, and then just listen and take notes. There you go. Now, all of that work and effort and focus will be focusing on a passage that I think is very important and is very appropriate as we finish up the stage of the race, the 2023 stage. And then you'll get, a couple of hours of reprieve. Really, you don't get any because the clock you go from 2023 to 2024. It's the very next day. There's not like, okay, we're going to give a 4-day pause between. No, the stage begins immediately. Well, I think as we try to run this race of life, Hebrews 12 offers us some important concepts to consider. So just download the app, do a search, Hebrews 12, 1 through 2, pick a sermon, boom, hit play, take notes. Just take notes. You may agree, you may disagree. May offer a perspective you've never heard before, it may be a perspective you've heard 1,000,000 times. But it will be once again getting you focused in on Hebrews 12, 1 through 2. As you fast approach 2024. It's December the 27th. Before we know it, this year is over. So maybe Hebrews 12, 1 through 2 will be a good passage to meditate on as we fast approach the end of a year. There you have it. 6 questions, 1 assignment. Your Bible pop quiz for this December the 27th, 2023. Probably your last Bible pop quiz of 2023. Now, I know it's the holidays. Some of you may be traveling. You may be doing 1,000,000 things. But if you can take a few minutes out, just a few minutes, all right? Take a little time and try to just work on Hebrews 12, 20. Even if you don't get to number 7, if you can get through 1 through 6, I think that will be advantageous and beneficial to you spiritually, and hopefully get you set up and ready for the next stage of the race. And remember, this race continues until, glorification. So I hope you will consider it and it will be beneficial. But that is your Bible pop quiz for this Wednesday, December the 27th, 2023.